Hello everyone, and welcome back to the second part of the POPX Soft Body series. In the first part, we did a cloth simulation and we introduced the soft body solver and how the constraint operator works in general. And we also added some interactivity into the cloth simulation. In this part of the series, we're going to simulate a soft body and also add some collision geometry and look more deeper inside the constraint uh, operator and the solver. So let's get started. I have here two geometries that are also available on the POPX release folder inside the assets folder. But you can also download any free geometry that you want and test it with the constraint and the solver. So I'm going to have the spot here as my simulated geometry, the soft body, and the pig head will be the collision geometry. So let's display the spot, and what we typically want to do for a soft body is to first preserve its surface and also preserve its volume. So for that, we need two types of constraints. The first one for the surface will be basically two constraints, which are the bend and the distance constraints. So for that, we're going to create a constraint operator and connect the spot. And we can generate both the distance along the edge and bend across triangles with the cloth constraints because it's going to basically generate both of them. So I'm going to click on the cloth. This will take a moment to compute it. And when it's ready, we will see the constraints. All right, so let's display the constraints and we can see that it's generated for us our constraints geometry for the distance and for the bend. So this is going to basically preserve the surface of the geometry. So let's actually see it in action. I'm going to add a constraint config first before the solver as usual. This will basically take my constraint and apply them and basically transfer them into the simulated geometry points. And after that, I'm going to drop a soft body solver. First, I'm going to add a keyboard in to reset my simulation. And I'm going to display the soft body solver. And I'm going to connect both of the input, the geometry, and also the constraints. So let's reset our simulation, and we're seeing something weird because I think we need to decrease a bit the ground collision. And let me toggle off the adaptive homing. Now you can see if we get closer that our surface of the geometry is being preserved, but its volume is completely destroyed. So to preserve the volume, we have two options. One is to create struts constraints, and the second is pressure constraints. In this tutorial, we're going to focus on struts constraints. So let's drop another constraint operator and chain it with the other constraint operator, just like that. And now I can choose to generate the struts constraint. And this is going to basically generate struts inside the volume of our simulated geometry. And as you can see, when it finished to generate those, our volume of our mesh is preserved. Now let's actually see the struts constraint uh, while with displaying the second constraint here. But we're seeing basically every constraint that is merged together. So I'm going to disable for now the cloth constraints over here by choosing none, so we can see the struts better. And here we go, we can see our struts, and you can see these are basically lines that are that connecting the points in a very random kind of way, but evenly kind of distributed. So to change some parameters for the struts, you can go to the search, and here you can define the constraint per point. So currently we have one strut per point, and you can increase it if you'd like. But this is going to be heavier on your GPU. You can see that it turns much more dense, and I think for this kind of geometry we can leave it with one. You can also jitter a bit the struts, and this will make them more evenly distributed. You can also toggle on the any it, and it will generate some struts that are not specifically inside the mesh. I think in this example we actually don't see it, but maybe in another geometry we will see the effect. Oh yeah, I think we can see it over here. Down here we have those struts, and without the any heat, they are not connected anymore. So let's toggle it off for now. You can also deattach struts by a chance, so you can increase the attach point chance, and this is going to uh, make the struts less dense, and you can play around with the seed. I'm going to leave it at 1 because I want the whole struts to be generated. And let's watch our simulation now. So I'm going to display it and reset, and we have something weird is happening because I think I disabled the cloth constraints. So let me quickly generate these again, and I'm going to reset the simulation. All right, so I can also change some properties of these struts. For example, the rest length scale. So this will basically inflate kind of like my geometry. And I can also lower the stiffness maybe to kind of make it more of a balloon. I want to make the ground at 0 to see better the stuff, and maybe transform my original geometry a bit higher. Now we can also increase the constraint iteration maybe. And if I increase the stiffness over here, and let's make the rest length scale 1, you can see that um, if I increase the constraint iterations, so the soft body will act more rigged basically. And if I lower them, it will be more squashy. You can also increase the sub steps to even get it more rigged. But let's keep it like this for now. Maybe 3 iterations, I think it's enough. And now in the post process page over here, we have the post smooth position enabled. So without it, you can see that we have some artifacts over here. So this is smoothing out those artifacts because of the um, constraint. You can also, after the geometry, uh, subdivide it to maybe make it more smoother. So I'm going to take the output, the first output, and I can also subdivide it to make it a bit more smoother. But let's now keep it simple. A nice thing is the visualize page, so I can visualize my constraint um, in real time. So I'm going to disable the simulated geometry here, and I'm going to look, for example, at the struts constraints. So I'm going to enable this, and you can also change the color, for example, and you can see in real time the constraints and their behavior. Let's remove it and see our simulated geometry. Another visualization here is the property. So we can display the stretch stress basically if we want. So the more red it is, it's going to that's basically telling us that the stress of the stretch is higher. We can also visualize the bend stretch. We can also visualize the stretch distance, the stretch ratio, maybe increase here the maximum value. So the stretch ratio is between the original rest length and the current rest length, and other properties that you can visualize over here. Let's disable this for now, and let's add maybe uh, plasticity for our geometry. Now I wanted to actually be um, lying on the ground more nicely, but I think it doesn't really matter. So for the struts, I can enable plasticity. Now, if I increase the rate of the plasticity and maybe lower down the threshold, maybe lower it even more down, you can see slowly that um, my geometry constraints are getting weaker. I can also decrease the hardening maybe, and maybe increase the rate much more. And if I reset my simulation, I no longer have the uh, volume preserve. But if I increase the hardening, I can still see it. Maybe the rate is too high here. And you can also toggle on the ratio of current rest length. So yeah, you can play around with this. This is funny. Um, and see the results. and get some more interesting and mostly funny things out of the plasticity to basically kind of simulate real kind of materials. Okay, so now I want to add a collision geometry. So let me uh, reset everything. I don't want any plasticity for now. Let's add the collision geometry. So I'm going to connect it into the third input of the first constraint, and I'm going to chain it like that. And to enable collision, we need to toggle on the geometry collision. And you can see that we have it over here. What I want to do is to maybe make my simulated geometry start from above. So I'm going to translate it on the y-axis, and maybe um, my geometry collision can be also higher. And let's reset the simulation and maybe even higher here. No, I think it was too much. Even all right. And maybe let's make it a bit far from us. Okay, so you can see that I inserted the geometry. I have adjusted a bit, adjusted the position of the collision geometry and both the simulated geometry, just to make the collision much more clear. You can also play around with some forces over here. For example, you have friction. So for friction with the geometry, you can disable or enable this. And you can play around with the static threshold and dynamic scale to increase more of the friction. And also the ground static scale and ground scale has its own friction over here. Now, a cool thing we can do actually is to create a constraint that attaches our geometry to the collision geometry, or basically any other um, collision geometry. So I can add another uh, constraint operator, and I can connect my geometry and the simulated geometry here, and I can choose to have attached to geometry. And you can see that this creates, let's visualize it actually. Second. So if I visualize it and I also visualize my collision geometry, you can see that it created constraint between the collision geometry and the simulated geometry. Now you can control those constraints in the search page over here. You can apply some jitter, um, less of the amplitude maybe, and the exponent also to make different kind of constraints. So I'm going to plug it in together with all the other constraints. And now let's see our simulation. So if I reset, So you can see that our geometry now is basically doesn't move because it has those struts that attach it to our collision geometry. But if I, for example, decrease the amplitude and maybe the exponent, so you can see that it's falling apart and it's colliding with our geometry. We can maybe also decrease a bit the stiffness of the attached constraint and maybe play around with the search, the attached search. And yeah, this is a simple example about this. Obviously, you can go further, and there will be more examples about uh, more more stuff, more workflows on the attached constraint. Uh, but I wanted to show you the basics on how to set it up. You can also visualize those here in the visualize page by toggling on the attach to geometry. So if I reset, you can see the attach to geometry constraint. Right, so this covers most of the basic stuff for the soft body. Last thing for this tutorial, and we will continue in the next tutorial and the next part, is the advanced page over here. You can choose between the integration order of your simulation. So second order or first order, and it will differ a bit on how the solver is actually updating the position of our geometry. If you want, you can also enable the max acceleration to basically limit your acceleration if you feel like your simulation is about to explode or there is too much happening. You can limit it. You can also limit the acceleration in the velocity update, which is a bit different, and it will give you a bit of different result. I highly recommend you to just experiment with this. And the fallback to first order integration on collision is enabled by default because solving collision basically is more accurate when you integrate in first order, but you can also disable it if you want to see the effect. In the next tutorials, we're going to look at pressure constraint and how to enable them over here. We're going to see also some other collision features over here with the self collision and the bounding box collision. We're going to look also at some more forces over here. And yeah, I think this is it for this part. I hope you enjoyed and thank you for watching. And hopefully see you in the next tutorial. Bye bye. Thank you so much.